So that's our signal to prepare for our service this morning. Thank you for being here. I do have a few announcements before we get started. The first is that if you have a joy or concern that you'd like to share, there are forms in your seats and also at the back of at the welcome tables. So feel free to fill out a form. I would encourage you to say who you are if you're comfortable with that. I always like knowing who the joy or concern is coming from, but it is up to you if you'd like to be anonymous with that. But please do that, and we'll bring them up and share those later in the service. On Sunday, October 30th, is going to be our Halloween Carnival. If you were here last year, you remember it was a lot of fun, and there were a lot of creative little mini haunted houses and trunks of cars and costumes. So be thinking about your costume. We will not have a service that day. We'll just be out in the parking lot having our Halloween Carnival. So be thinking about what spooky thing you're going to do with your costume or your trunk or treating display. You are also invited to attend an event happening this Thursday, October 20th. The name of the event is How Can We Stop Mass Shootings in Our Community? And it is sponsored by the Courageous Conversations, Georgetown Ministerial Alliance, and the Georgetown Police Department. Again, that's Thursday, October 20th. It's at 6:30 p.m. at the Georgetown Public Library. You are invited to explore this question as we gather for a courageous conversation with our Georgetown neighbors and listen to find a convergence of shared values as we discern how to keep our public spaces safe for all. And finally, we are also looking for donations for our little free pantry, still seeking to restock it. And we've had a lot of folks who are looking for canned goods or boxed items, so if you can, share some. If you're at Costco, pick up an extra case of black beans or something, that's great. We would appreciate it. So let us now begin.
Welcome. Good morning, and welcome to San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whether you are here in this sanctuary or watching at home, we're so glad you're here. My name is Diane Dancer, and my pronouns are she, her. I've been a member of SGUUF for 8 years. Many years ago, prior to junior high school, my family was active in Unitarian fellowships in Bryan, College Station, and Brownsville, Texas. But it was not until I retired and moved to Georgetown, Texas, and was attending a Martin Luther King march that I had a sense of homecoming when I saw some folks wearing bright yellow shirts with SGUUF boldly printed on the back. Approaching one of them, I tapped them on the shoulder and exclaimed, "You mean to tell me there are UUs in Georgetown, Texas?" That person, by the way, was Sharon Covey. And she laughed, I laughed, and she gave me a very warm invite to visit SGUUF. And along with Roy Benson, who's sitting right there in the front row. And here we are today. Our connections groups are a wonderful way to get to know each other as we share our spiritual journey with questions and answers from our monthly Soul Matters topic, along with lots of personal stories and laughs and tears as we spend time together. Our group started in 2018, and we celebrate those who have moved to other areas, To mention a few, Ruth Lawrence, Tricia Tabor, Bill and Kay Stoss, John Miller, and other members who have come to visit and then perhaps gone to other groups. And our current members, Bob and Darlene Douglas, Gil and Joan Douglas, Roy Benson, Pat Laird, Pam and Woody Hibbard, who are up on the chancel here, and Ron Yeck. Bob and Darlene Douglas were not able to be with us today, but Bob and Darlene had a note and wanted me to share this with all of you. When Darlene and I joined SGUUF in 2013, we were first-time UUs and thrilled to become part of a community of thinking, caring, and generally like-minded and curious people. We had both grown up in traditional Bible churches where unless you had choir practice Wednesday evening, church just meant showing up on Sunday morning for a good scolding. At SGUUF, the freedom from judgment, the friendly and supportive tolerance were joyful revelations and led us to more engagements with the community, committee services, fundraisers, art projects with kids, and in 2018, our Connections group. UU has become a vital presence in our lives. Then the pandemic, the necessary isolation took much of the fellowship out of SGUUF. The important glue that held for us was our Connections group. We continued to meet on Zoom with the same openness and goodwill as our in-person meetings. And then I had a revelation. Darlene would not tell you, but I sometimes arrived late. I made the connection. Does that sound like Bob? Our Connection group readings and discussions were purposeful opportunities to delve more deeply into the monthly theme of our sermons and building fellowship to know each other more deeply. For any of you who may be new to UU or simply have not joined a Connections group, we encourage you to do so. Connection has so enriched our lives, and we hope the same for you. From Bob and Darlene. San Gabriel is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. If you'd like to know more about us and learn about upcoming events, please go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. Please know that whoever you are, wherever you are from, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, whatever your gender identification or immigration status, you are welcome here. And now, if you'll join with all of us, and let's greet the day in song. So please rise in body and spirit for our opening hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit. Music's in the gray hymnal, and words will be on the screen.
So let us now light our chalice, the symbol of our faith, with the words of our own Reverend Jamie. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith, for the promise of a new day, for the renewal of belonging, for the connection between and beyond all that is, all that was, and all that is yet to come. May our many sparks meet and merge in communion of heart and soul to greet this day.
We come together here today to join in worship. Worship means that we gather to consider matters of worth and value. Worship means finding holiness in the everyday all around us. Worship means paying attention to the earth and all the living and non-living things with whom we share it. Worship means that we hold each other on our hearts as one caring community. Let us worship here together.
Our affirmation is an expression of our covenant with one another. Please read after me. The words will be projected. The doctrine of this church is love.
We are here to love.
The quest of truth is its sacrament.
We are here to learn.
Service is its prayer.
We are here to care for others.
To dwell together in peace.
We are here to live in peace.
To seek knowledge in freedom.
We are here to honor our differences.
To serve humanity in fellowship.
We are all connected in spirit.
To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine.
We are here to grow.
Thus do we covenant with one another.
This we promise to do together.
And now it's time for Woody and the Wonder Box.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. All right, I've been entrusted by Karina to fill in on the Wonder Box today. Now, we all know the drill. Karina is on her way back from a conference. Let's hope she had a rewarding and enjoyable time, and I'm sure she'll be here next week. By the time I'm finished, she may make a priority of being here next week. All right. I need guesses. What? Books. Any others?
Research.
I have a hearing problem.
Small pumpkin.
Small pumpkin.
Large pumpkin.
All right. Let's just get to it, shall we? All right, what we have here is a map. A map. Now, we don't see much of these anymore, you know, with GPS and all that kind of thing, but a map is still, can be kind of a creative activity at times. You know, you can look at it and imagine new places, new experiences, new beginnings. It's kind of hard to get that warm, fuzzy feeling from a GPS audio squawking at you every 5 minutes to turn right and this kind of thing. So the map plays a supporting role in our story today. Let's see how.
"10 Beautiful Things." Written by Molly Beth Griffin, illustrated by Maribel Lechuga, published by Charles Bridge. Lily ran her finger across the Iowa map. An X marked Graham's house on an empty patch of land. Lily's new home. Graham's car tires hummed against the pavement. Lily felt the vibration in her hollow chest. "Let's try to find 10 beautiful things along the way," Graham said. Lily turned her eyes to the window. "There's nothing beautiful here," she said. She struggled to fold the map so it nestled into itself just right. "You'd be surprised," Graham said. And sure enough, at that very moment, the sun broke over the long horizon. Lily gasped. "There's number 1, she cried. "Right you are, Lily," said Graham. Fence posts rushed past. Graham flipped on the radio, trying to fill the silence. Lily felt the complaint starting in her belly again, coming up her throat and nearly out her mouth. But then Graham shouted, "Number 2!" A wind farm had sprouted in the field beside the freeway. Spinning windmill blades gleamed in the morning sun. Lily concentrated on the game and found number 3 real fast, a red-winged blackbird perched on a swaying stalk of last year's corn. It was dark and bright all at once, its beak wide open in a song they couldn't hear. Later, Graham signaled and turned the car onto a smaller road. "2 more highways to go," she said. Lily popped a handful of crackers into her mouth, but food didn't fill up her hollow places. Graham cracked her window, and in rushed air and sound and cold. They crossed a bridge, and Graham chose number 4, the gurgly sound of a melting creek. Lily dozed off. She woke up when Graham tapped her knee and pointed out a falling apart barn. "That's not pretty," Lily said. "That can't count." "We're not looking for pretty. We want beautiful," Graham said. So it stood, halfway to 10. At a rest area, Lily bounced out of the car while Graham stretched her creaky body. Lily picked number 6. "The smell of mud," she said, inhaling. Graham shut her eyes and nodded slowly. "It's earthy and rich," she said. "I'd never really noticed." Lily breathed in the mud smell and focused on just that. It poured itself into some of the empty spaces in her. Back on the road again, the car seemed smaller. The humming in Lily had stopped, but her legs wanted to sprawl, and her stomach was getting queasy. "We're on a roll now," Graham said, and she was right about that. 7 and 8 were easy, a cloud shaped like a swan and a little brown calf that trotted beside the fence. Miles and miles later, they turned onto their last road, and the clouds began to draw close. The sky grew dark. The earth rumbled. Suddenly, the air exploded in bright flashes. Cloud banks traded lightning back and forth, showing off. "Number 9, Lily whispered. There was no room for other words. The storm took up the whole world, and it filled Lily up, too. She was here with Graham, and for a whole minute, that was all that mattered. On they drove. Almost there, not far now. When they'd been almost there for a long time, Graham braked, eased the car down a crumbling driveway, and parked in front of the farmhouse. "Here we be," she said through the drum of the rain. "Home." "But we only made it to 9, Lily said, slumping in her seat. "Nope, 10, easy." Graham came around with the umbrella and Lily stepped out of the car. "We're 10, Graham said. Lily sank into her familiar hug. None of this was easy. Maybe it would never be easy, but she belonged with Graham now. She belonged here now. This place wasn't empty, and neither was she. The end.
You know, Karina always seems to have a way to find stories that speak to all age groups, and this is certainly another one. It's a story of love and belonging, a story we can all relate to in one way or another. And for those of us who have experienced it, it's not just a beautiful thing, it may be the most beautiful thing about being human. And I think this is where the whole idea of a beloved community starts. Thank you, Karina.
So if we have any children today, they are welcome to join Mr. Spoon and Hush in the back of the room, as always, and we have crafts for them, or if we have adults who would like some crafts, they are also available at the back of the sanctuary. So let's pause here and take a moment to remind ourselves of the power of being in each other's presence and the strength that comes from belonging to one another and our hopes for this world. There are forms in your seat back pockets, as I mentioned, for joys and concerns, if you would like to fill them out, and we will collect them and share them later. Today, I want to share with you some thoughts and reflections sparked by a conversation at coffee hour several weeks ago. Lou Sneed, Ron Yeck, Jay McMillan, Chris Vitera, and I were all drinking coffee, eating snacks, and lamenting the polarized state of our country right now. We talked about whether it was possible to talk with people who support the former president despite his lies and stonewalling of the legal process. How do we even begin to talk with people who still believe that the election was stolen despite all the evidence to the contrary? Is it possible to even have a conversation with people when we can't agree on what is true and what is not true? Lou said that he thought we needed to talk to people on the other side even though it was difficult. He said we have to keep communicating with the election deniers in hopes that at some point we can win over some of them with reason and facts and open conversation. I responded and said that it doesn't have to be an either-or choice, whether we engage with dialogue with election deniers or whether we do other things like work for candidates who support our side and try to get them elected. But it's a question of how we spend our time. Right now, I don't think it's a good use of my time to talk with those who would continue to support the former president and his authoritarian agenda, or to try to change their minds. I said, right now, it feels like we're in a fight against a rising tide of fascism. There's a real battle to decide whether fair elections, an independent and fair court system, and basic human rights will continue. Right now, I am going to spend my time trying to get people who elected who will ensure the functioning democracy that we currently have and basic human rights, as well as public schools and a society based on the rule of law. Now, I want to make it clear that Lou is not trying to say that we should spend all our time, or even most of our time, trying to have conversations with election deniers or ultra-conservatives. I know that Lou and Michelle have been block walking and organizing postcard signing for UU the Vote and doing other works for candidates in past several weeks. But I wanted to share with you that conversation for the questions that it raised. It was a good conversation at coffee hour that day, and it stayed with me that week. The next Sunday, Chris Vitera came up to me and said that she had been thinking about our conversation all week as well, and said something specifically that I had said, how do we spend our time, had stuck with her. She really appreciated that. It was just a brief exchange with Chris, but I could tell from the way she said it, she was thinking about more than political activity or other activism when she was thinking about that question, how do we spend our time? She thought about it in a much broader sense, I could tell. I emailed Chris a few days later and asked her what she meant when she said she was thinking about how we spend our time. She referred me to and then gave me a copy of a book that she said it had a big impact on her, and it was called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. I've since read it, and it rocked my world. And I want to share some of you what I learned from it. But before I talk with you about that book, I want to first talk with you about some earlier experiences in my life and how they affected how I spend my time. I grew up in a family where we talked about current events at the dinner table each night. We had the Chicago Daily News and Time Magazine in our house and plenty of other magazines, and these gave me a sense of awareness of the broader world. In 1976, my mom worked as a volunteer for the Jimmy Carter for President campaign. I remember she would drive into a campaign office in a nearby suburb and answer the phone and help with mailings. This was before the advent of email, of course. I remember her bringing home boxes of letters and envelopes, and my siblings and I would help her by folding these letters and stuffing them into envelopes and then sending them out to potential Jimmy Carter supporters. That year, I dressed in a denim leisure suit and played the role of Jimmy Carter in a debate in front of our junior high. And a fellow 8th grader played Gerald Ford. And those experiences of seeing my mom volunteer with the Carter campaign and myself getting involved gave me a sense that politics was something that I could be involved in. I could see that I was a participant, not just an observer. I could spend my time getting involved, and it would make a difference. A second key experience that shaped me happened several years later. My older brother, Richard, was working as an organizer for the American Friends Service Committee in Chicago. They're kind of the outreach arm of the Quakers. In June 1982, the American Friends Service Committee was one of many organizations that organized a demonstration in New York for nuclear disarmament. Richard, as a member of AFSC, helped to organize 11 buses full of people that went from Chicago to New York to participate in that rally. I went along, and I remember marching up Broadway in New York, first time I'd ever been there, and then being part of an enormous crowd in Central Park, an estimated crowd of 1 million people that gathered in Central Park in one of the largest protests still to this day in U.S. history. And while that one rally did not lead to nuclear disarmament, it did project a mass demonstration of an expression that the use of nuclear arms was unthinkable and unacceptable. So those two early experiences had a big effect on me, watching my mom get involved in the Carter campaign, helping out, and then participating with my brother in that huge rally for disarmament in New York. They gave me a sense that I could participate and make a difference. Another experience in my life would happen a year later, which would change me and give me a different perspective on how I spend my time. And not just in social or political activity, but how I spend my time in a much larger way. In 1982, after having been on dialysis for more than 10 years, my mom had a kidney transplant. She was feeling better and more energetic than she had in years after the transplant. But after several months, Mom started retaining fluid in her body, which was a sign that the new kidney was not working well. One day during my sophomore year at college, I got a call from my sister. Mom was in the hospital, and it was serious. I sped back home from Normal, Illinois to Chicago, where we all gathered by her bedside that afternoon. She was unconscious when I got there, so I didn't get to talk to her as she laid in her hospital bed. We went back home that evening, and the next day, Dad told us that Mom had a generalized infection throughout her body, and we needed to get to the hospital right away. My brother and sisters, my dad, our aunt and uncle, we all met at the hospital that morning. And later that afternoon, my mom died. She was only 46 years old. Losing my mom at the age of 19 changed who I was. It changed how I saw time in the world. We don't know how long we have. It may be 90 years, or it may be 70, or it may be 46. I'm now 58, And I'm aware each year of things that I am doing that my mom did not get to do. Being at my daughter's wedding, seeing our girls establish their careers and start families, spending time with our grandson. I think that it may have given me a sense of urgency about time to lose my mom at that age. I want to come back again to Oliver Burkeman and his book, 4,000 Weeks. It's a book about how we use our time and how we make choices about using our time. The title, 4,000 Weeks, refers to the approximate lifespan of a person in this country, which is about 80 years. 4,000 weeks sounds much shorter than 80 years, doesn't it? And perhaps that gives us a different lens on our lives. 4,000 Weeks is not a time management book. It is not a book to help us efficiently cram more into our already busy lives. It's a book about looking at how we spend our time and inviting us to be aware of and choose how we spend our time. Are we doing something only to cross it off the to-do list, or is it something that we really value? In addition to our to-do lists of chores, or of errands, or projects, our time is always being pulled by what Burkeman calls the attention economy. Every day we are busy, we are beckoned by a dizzying number of enterprises and industries designed to get and hold our attention. Facebook, Nextdoor, Twitter, NFL football, MLS soccer, MSNBC, CNN, PBS News, Netflix, Apple Plus, Hulu, Amazon Prime, HBO. These are some of my attention-getting devices. With all the breaking news alerts and cat videos and must-see TV and neighborhood gossip on Nextdoor, we have to think about how much we are choosing to spend our time and how much we are being lured by distraction. Or in my case, oh my gosh, I've just spent the last 30 minutes watching people dive off cliffs on my phone in silly videos, I've zoned out through 4 straight hours of news on MSNBC. The thing about distractions, as Burkeman observes, is that what you pay attention to will define for you what reality is. Your experience of being alive consists of nothing other than the sum of everything to which you pay attention. At the end of your life, looking back, whatever compelled your attention from moment to moment is simply what your life will have been. So when you say you pay attention to something you don't especially value, when you do pay attention to something you don't especially value, it's not an exaggeration to say you're paying with your life. When we talk about our life, what it means to be alive, not only are we saying that we all have a limited amount of time, which we do, we can simply say that we are a limited amount of time. This, says Burkeman, is a key insight of German philosopher Martin Heidegger in his work, Being and Time. To be human, to be a human being, is to be here for a certain amount of time. There is a beginning and there is an ending. And to be aware of that is to have an authentic understanding of our lives. Rather than taking ownership of our lives, says Burkeman, we tend to seek out distractions or lose ourselves in busyness and the daily grind as we forget our real predicament. Or we embark on the futile attempt to get everything done, which is really another way of trying to avoid the responsibility of trying to decide what to do with your finite time. Or if we think about the story, 10 Beautiful Things, Lily in the beginning is focused on her fears and her worries about the life she is leaving and her new life with Graham. But Graham's challenge to find 10 beautiful things allows Lily to pay attention to the present moment and find beauty in what she sees, even if it's a dilapidated barn or a scary thunderstorm. There's 2 other aspects of time and how we spend it that I want to touch on with you today. The first is the value of time that we spend actively doing things with others. And beyond just spending time with others is that time when we are truly in synchrony with other people. I think of my time in high school in an ensemble of actors on the stage and how that felt, or singing in harmony and dancing together in swing choir. I still remember the tap dance number we did in Guys and Dolls. Berkman talks about an intense and vivid sense of time with a richer sense of meaning that happens when we are in synchrony with others. This can happen when dancing in a group or performing in a marching band or singing the Handel's Messiah in a choir. He says synchronized movement along with synchronized singing has a vastly underappreciated force in world history, fostering cohesion among groups as diverse as the builders of the pyramids, the armies of the Ottoman Empire, and Japanese office workers who rise from their desk to perform calisthenics at the beginning of each workday. Last year, my wife Dana and I went to an Austin FC major soccer league game and witnessed the power of the fan club section at the end of the stadium, who danced and sang for the entire length of the game. It's amazing to watch and hear hundreds of people joyfully singing and dancing in unison for the entire 90-minute match was an experience I unexpectedly found moving and powerful. I think our time here together each week, especially when we are singing together and maybe dancing on the rare occasion that we do that, could have a power of shared, and in that we feel a power of shared or synchronous time. And that feeling is probably the reason why I still remember dancing with my friends in the basement of the UU Church in Iowa City about 40 years ago. There's one more aspect of time that I want to mention. The time we spend in each week and day and hour and minute of our lives is in one sense linear. It's one straight line from the beginning to the end. But in another sense, our time is cyclical. Each day has cycles we repeat. One week has a rhythm like the next week. There are things we think and feel with the change of seasons. Each holiday has echoes of previous ones as we put up decorations or have a shared meal with family. That cyclical aspect of time may be the way that our lives expand to a time before our birth and beyond us after we are gone. Like my parents and grandparents, we gather on Thanksgiving to share a meal and appreciate time with one another. We get together to celebrate birthdays and are asked to make a wish for the future. Our traditions for the seasons, the holidays, for religious rituals, connect us with the flow of time in our past and into our future. Each of us has traditions in our family, and we have traditions in our culture, we have traditions in our UU faith that connect us to our past and connect us to our friends, our children, our grandchildren. The challenge or the goal to be more conscious and intentional in how we spend our time, that's what we face. Are we watching something on TV just out of sheer inertia or habit? Or is it really how we want to spend the evening? Am I responding to comments on Facebook because I really value the exchange with someone? Or am I being distracted by a technology that makes its money off my attention? Do I participate in a tradition that holds meaning and value for my family or my church? Or has a tradition outlived its value? These are the questions I was left with after reading Berkman's book. He really raises the ultimate question for all of us, whether we're conscious of it or not. What will I do with my 4,000 weeks? It's up to each of us to decide. Each day, each week, each minute, what do I choose to do with my life? For me, because of my past experiences, I know that I will continue to use some of my time on goals that are much larger than myself. I'll be a small part of something bigger, trying to change the direction of the country and broaden the reach and understanding of our UU faith. Whatever each of us decides to do, we all have a choice in front of us each day. What we pay attention to is what we are choosing to do with our life. And so when we ask how we spend our time, what we are asking is what we paid attention to. Whatever it is that we pay attention to each day, each week, is our life. So let's now take a deep and cleansing breath and exhale. For the joy shared, we join together in celebration. For the sorrows and concerns, we feel empathy and compassion. For all that remains unspoken, may the caring of the community offer a space of deep kindness and care.
Let us take a deep cleansing breath and exhale. Let us now sing together again. Please rise in body or spirit for hymn 128, For All That Is Our Life. Music's in the gray hymnal and lyrics will be on the board.
Okay, we take an offering each week to sustain the space that we call home and to support the work of our fellowship. And today we're grateful to Judy and Joe for providing the music, and I've been asked to read this word for word. They will be playing Angels Through the Night. This is described as a beautiful mingling of the lullaby all through the night and the spiritual all night, all day. The offering will now be gratefully received, and we thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Joe and Judy and to everyone who was involved today in the service, Diane, Woody, Pam, Ron, all the tech team and elves behind the scenes that make possible what we do each Sunday. Just a reminder on some of the things that are happening coming up. The Halloween Carnival, be thinking about your costume, be thinking about your spooky things. The event at the library this Thursday, sponsored by the Police Department, Courageous Conversations and Ministerial Alliance, and also just remember, looking for donations for free pantry.
We close our sacred time together when we extinguish our chalice. I share again with you words from our Reverend Jamie. We extinguish the flame, but not the chalice inside of our hearts, which serves as a beacon of hope. Emboldened by its blaze, we're reminded that our strength as prophetic and powerful people is found when we come together at St. Gabriel, which is here in Georgetown to stay, no matter what may come our way. Our postlude music is Climbing Up the Mountain, a traditional spiritual with a fun swing, blues harmonies. Let us greet one another.